Hi, I'm Emily, and I want to share something very personal with you today. Growing up, I always believed that small acts of kindness could change everything. I remember my grandmother's warm smile as she handed me a little handmade card just to make me feel special. That moment, that gesture, taught me that love doesn't need grand gestures, it's in the little things we do every day. That belief has stayed with me ever since, shaping how I see the world and how I try to bring light into the lives of others. One of my most cherished memories is of a rainy Sunday afternoon when my family gathered around the kitchen table, laughing and sharing stories despite the gloomy weather outside. Even when life gets busy or complicated, I hold on to those simple moments of connection because they remind me of what truly matters, that we're all longing for love and understanding, even in the smallest ways. It's these memories that inspire me to keep trying, to keep believing that we can rebuild what feels lost and find joy in each other again. That's why I decided to organize something special, a birthday celebration not just for me, but for everyone I love. I dreamed of creating a day where we could all forget about worries and just be together, truly present. I poured my heart into planning every detail, from the decorations to the little surprises, hoping to make it a day that will remind us of the bonds we sometimes take for granted. I wanted to show my family how much they mean to me, how much I value our time together. My hope was that this celebration would help us reconnect in a way words sometimes can't express, that it would bring us closer and remind us of the love we share. Of course, not everyone was immediately on board. I could see some family members hesitating, maybe feeling unsure or even a little annoyed that I was making such a fuss. But I stayed hopeful. I knew that sometimes change takes time and love is worth fighting for. I believed that if I kept showing up with my heart open, they'd see how much it all meant to me, how much I wanted us to be happy, together, stronger than before. So I invite you to stay with me on this journey. If you've ever felt like you're the only one trying, or if you believe in the power of small gestures, then please leave a like and subscribe. I want to share every step, every worry, and every ounce of hope I have, because I believe that stories like ours can remind us all of something really important. That love, no matter how fragile it seems, can be renewed in the simplest ways. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll come along for the rest of this story. As I watched everyone nod and smile politely, I could feel the initial buzz of excitement slipping away. I had spent so many nights planning every detail, imagining their faces lighting up when they saw what I'd done. But now a strange heaviness settled in my chest. It was subtle at first, little things that I brushed off as nerves or maybe just my imagination. Still, I couldn't ignore how, when I brought up my ideas, they'd exchange quick glances or change the subject entirely. My words seemed to fall flat, swallowed by silence or diverted by some unrelated comment. Sometimes I'd catch a smirk or a glance that felt pointed, almost mocking. I'd hear a sarcastic remark about how much effort I was overdoing it, as if my enthusiasm was a joke. It was as if they wanted to diminish what I was doing, to make me feel small for trying so hard. I'd smile back, trying to hide the ache that was growing inside, clinging to hope that maybe they'd come around, that maybe I was just overthinking things. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. I started to notice the little exclusions, plans made without me, conversations that stopped whenever I approached, as if I wasn't meant to be part of the story. I'd see my mom quietly whispering with my sister, their eyes darting away when I looked their way. My father would be in another room, busy with his phone, pretending not to hear me when I asked about the decorations. It was as if I had become invisible, a ghost in my own celebration. And each small rejection felt like a punch to the gut, a reminder that maybe I had overestimated what this could be. Inside, a storm was brewing. I fought to keep my face neutral to hide the sting of rejection, but I could feel my resolve weakening. Was I really not enough? Was my effort just a foolish attempt to buy their love? Why did it feel like I was trying to hold a fragile thread that was slipping through my fingers? I wondered if I had misread everything, if they never really wanted me to do this, if I'd been naive to believe they cared enough to join in. The betrayal stung sharper than I expected, and I could feel the tears threatening to surface, though I fought to keep them at bay. The more I watched, the more I felt the weight of my loneliness. It was a strange kind of emptiness, this quiet sense that I was standing in the middle of a room full of people who didn't see me, who didn't want me there. I told myself I should be strong, that I shouldn't let it get to me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd done something wrong, that my hope had only made everything worse. The disappointment simmered beneath my skin, and I wondered how much longer I could pretend everything was fine. I was bracing myself, even if I didn't quite realize it yet, for what might come next, whether I would keep fighting or finally accept that I was truly alone in this. I never saw it coming, not like this. I was just in the kitchen, trying to tidy up, when something caught my eye, an envelope tucked behind a stack of papers on the table. It was addressed to my husband, but what made my stomach drop was the subject line, family trip plans. My hands trembled as I reached for it, my heart pounding so loudly I thought everyone could hear it. I tried to tell myself it was just a routine note, nothing more. But as I unfolded the paper, my eyes scanned the words, details about the trip, the dates, the arrangements. And then, right there in black and white, a list of people going, with my name conspicuously missing. No mention of me, no hint of my presence at all. Just a cold, deliberate exclusion. My breath caught in my throat. I stared at the page, disbelief washing over me like icy water. How could they do this? How could they plan something so important without me? My mind scrambled to deny what I was seeing, to convince myself it was a mistake, a cruel joke. But the evidence was undeniable. The words burned into my eyes. I felt a wave of nausea rise up, my hands trembling uncontrollably. My vision blurred as tears threatened to spill over, blurring the cruel reality in front of me. I clutched the paper tightly, trying to hold onto some shred of sanity, some hope that maybe I was mistaken, that it wasn't what it looked like. But deep down, I knew the betrayal was real. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight, as if the air had been suddenly ripped out of my lungs. My legs wobbled and I had to lean against the wall just to stay upright. My mind raced in chaos, trying to find a way to unsee what I had just discovered, to erase the sting of that cold truth. I wanted to scream, to shout, to demand answers, but I couldn't. Instead, I silently backed away, my feet carrying me to the farthest corner of the room. I sank down onto the floor, clutching my knees to my chest, trembling as shock took over. Every thought was a whirlwind of pain. How long had this been planned? How long had they been pretending everything was fine while secretly excluding me? The weight of it crushed me, making my stomach churn and my vision blur even more. And just like that, hope shattered. The fragile illusion I had clung to, that maybe I was wrong, that perhaps I still belonged, crumbled into dust. I felt numb, cold inside, as if a part of me had died right there on the floor. The tears finally broke free, streaming down my face, hot and uncontrollable. I wanted to scream at the injustice, to demand an explanation, but I couldn't find my voice. All I could do was sit there, overwhelmed by a flood of sadness so deep it felt like I was drowning. In that moment, I realized how little they saw me, how easy it was for them to erase me from their plans, from their hearts. The betrayal cut deeper than I ever imagined, and suddenly, everything I believed in felt like a lie. I took a long, steady breath, feeling the air fill my lungs and steady my trembling hands. For a moment, I just closed my eyes and let the silence around me settle in. It was the kind of silence that demands attention, that pushes through the noise of my heartbreak and finally makes me listen to what I already knew, what I had always known deep down but refused to admit. I couldn't keep giving them the power to hurt me like this, not anymore. I had spent so long trying to be enough, trying to make myself visible in their eyes, but now I saw clearly. I was only draining myself. Their rejection, their silence, their indifference, they weren't going to change. And I wouldn't keep chasing after a love that was already gone. Calmness settled over me like a cloak, quiet but firm. I focused on my breathing, slow and deliberate, as if anchoring myself to something solid within. I realized that this moment wasn't about rage or blame, it was about reclaiming what I'd lost, my dignity, my strength, my sense of self. I made a silent vow that I would stop begging for their approval. I would stop trying to fit into a space that refused to hold me. I couldn't keep pouring my energy into something that only drained me further, only confirmed that I was invisible to those I cared about. No, this was about shifting the quiet focus inward, about choosing myself, quietly and resolutely. In that stillness, I began to outline my plan, not aloud, but in my mind. First, I would take control of my own life again. I could start by preparing for the departure I'd already been avoiding, by organizing my finances, making arrangements to stand on my own. I'd cancel the trip, not out of anger, but with the calm certainty that I didn't need their approval to live my life fully. I'd find ways to support myself, to regain my independence, to show myself that I was capable of standing alone and still being whole. I knew that leaving quietly with dignity would be the strongest statement I could make. No dramatic confrontations, no tears, just a gentle, unwavering assertion that I was enough on my own. With each small decision I made internally, I felt my strength grow. It was as if the weight of their rejection was finally lifting, replaced by a quiet confidence that no one could take away from me. I understood that this was just the beginning, not a moment of despair, but the first step towards something better. Beneath the surface, I could feel the quiet storm brewing, the undeniable promise that I was about to take control of my life in a way that no betrayal could ever undo. I wasn't rushing. I was preparing, gathering my resolve, ready to move forward with dignity and purpose. The next chapter wasn't written yet, but I knew it would be mine to shape, and that realization alone made me feel stronger than I had in a long time. I took a deep breath and began moving subtly, almost as if I was dissolving into the background. Quietly, I canceled the trip I had painstakingly planned and paid for, knowing that reclaiming that space, no matter how small, was a step toward reclaiming myself. I didn't announce it, didn't make a scene. I simply went through the motions, disconnecting the reservations, deleting the emails, and making sure no trace of my effort remained in the chaos of their plans. It was strange how such a small act could feel like a solid anchor in the storm of my emotions, calm, precise, deliberate. With that, I started gathering what was mine. Personal documents, my birth certificate, bank statements, my passport, placed neatly into a small bag I kept hidden in a drawer. I knew I had to be prepared, not just for today but for whatever came next. As I moved around the house, I felt a strange sense of relief settling over me with each item I separated from the collective clutter. There was no anger in these actions, only a quiet certainty that this was my space now, my life, my choices. I kept my movements smooth, controlled, detached from the noise of their obliviousness. They went about their routines, unaware that everything around them was subtly shifting, that I was silently rewriting my boundaries. I also began to separate my belongings from theirs, clothing, little personal touches, storing them away in a small, secure place I knew they wouldn't notice. This wasn't about confrontation, it was about asserting my independence without words, without drama. Each small act felt like a brick being laid in a foundation I was finally building for myself. I didn't need anyone's approval or understanding right now. The strength I was gathering came from this quiet certainty that I could stand apart and still move forward. As I did all this, an unexpected wave of calm washed over me. It was as if the act of organizing, of reclaiming my space, stripped away the weight of unspoken expectations and silent disappointments. I felt a subtle shift, an internal shift that no one outside could see, but I could feel deeply. There was no anger, no bitterness, only clarity and a profound sense of control. I knew this was just the beginning. The real change wouldn't come from loud words or dramatic confrontations, but from these silent, unwavering actions. They would be the foundation on which I would rebuild myself, quietly and steadily, until everything around me reflected the strength I was nurturing within. I knew I had to act without making a sound, without giving anyone the chance to see the cracks forming in my resolve. Quietly, I canceled the trip I had arranged and paid for, the one meant to be a family celebration. It was a small gesture, but it carried weight. As I logged into the booking site, I felt a strange sense of calm, not anger, not disappointment, just clarity. My fingers moved deliberately, reshaping my reality with each click, reclaiming a fragment of control I'd been losing. Next, I gathered my essential documents, my passport, my ID, my bank statements, and the papers I'd need when the time came to stand on my own 2 feet. I kept them separate from the chaos around me, tucked away in a small, discreet bag I prepared days earlier. There was no dramatic rush, no frantic searching. Only a composed, measured effort to ensure that when I needed to leave, I could do so without scrambling or hesitation. Every step I took felt like a small victory, a silent assertion that I would no longer be invisible in my own life. I carefully packed a few belongings, some clothes, a few personal items, things that symbolized my independence. I moved through my space with purpose, separating my things from theirs without a trace of emotion. No tears, no anger. Just a quiet, unwavering focus. I knew that the more I kept my actions understated, the more powerful they became. The family remained unaware of what I was doing, caught up in their routines, oblivious to the quiet shift unfolding around them. As I organized my things, I felt a wave of relief washing over me. Each item I set aside was a step closer to freedom, a reminder that I could shape my future, even in silence. I didn't need to confront anyone or make a scene. My strength was in the calmness I maintained, in the precision of my movements. I felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had been lifted, even though no one around me had yet realized it. This process, each small, deliberate action, I understood now, was building the foundation of something new. Not just physical separation, but an internal one as well. I was carving out a space where I could breathe freely, where my voice could be heard in my own way. The quietness of my actions was a shield, protecting me from the chaos outside while solidifying my resolve inside. I didn't need applause or recognition. The act of taking control in this silent, controlled manner was enough. It was enough to remind me that I was still here, still capable, still moving forward, even when everything else seemed to stand still. They tried to reach me, of course they did. I could hear their voices, desperate and pleading, trying to rewrite the narrative, to make me feel guilty for not playing along anymore. There were shallow apologies, quick apologies that sounded more like excuses, as if saying sorry could erase what they had done. They hinted at regret, but it was a thin veneer, easily shattered by their words and actions. They begged me to forget everything and just go back to the way things used to be. Their voices carried a desperate tone, a hunger to reclaim what they lost, but I felt nothing but a calm resolve. I stood there, listening quietly, watching their attempts to manipulate with a kind of quiet detachment that surprised even me. It was as if the person I used to be, the one who would crumble under guilt, who would try to fix everything, was gone, replaced by someone who saw through their games with clarity and strength. I didn't respond to their pleas. I didn't need to. Their words bounced off me like echoes in an empty hall. I knew their tactics. They were trying to make me feel responsible, to make me doubt my own decision, to plant seeds of guilt that would grow if I let them. But I had already seen through it all. I had already made my choice. My silence was a boundary, a firm wall that said, no more. I didn't need their apologies or their guilt trips. I had taken back control, and that power felt intoxicating. I could see their desperation now, how they clung to their old ways, begging for salvation in their own misguided desperation. But I was no longer part of that cycle. I had closed that door for good. They kept trying, but each attempt grew weaker, more hollow. I watched as they scrambled for words, for a way to pull me back into their world, but I knew better. I knew I was done with their manipulation, with their empty words, with feeling responsible for their failures. I had built something new, something rooted in my own clarity and strength. Their voices faded into the background, and I felt a quiet sense of victory. Not because I wanted to punish them, but because I no longer needed their approval. I had claimed my space, my peace, and my independence. That realization settled inside me like a quiet fire burning steadily, warming me from within. There was a sadness, of course, for what could have been, what I'd hoped for once long ago. But that sadness no longer held power over me. I no longer mourned what I lost because I had gained so much more. Self-respect, a clear mind, and a future I controlled. I looked at them, pleading, guilt-ridden, desperate, and I felt no temptation to go back. Their attempts to manipulate me only confirmed what I already knew. I was free, fully, completely free. I had drawn my line in the sand, and I would not cross it again. My silence was my strongest answer. I turned away, feeling the weight of their failed efforts, and stepped into this new chapter with unwavering certainty. No apologies, no regrets. Only strength. Only the knowledge that I am enough just as I am. I wake up each morning with a sense of peace I never thought I'd fully claim for myself. The quietness of my home feels like a gift, a space I've carefully made my own. I start my day by taking a few moments to breathe deeply, feeling the sunlight spill across my skin. There's no rush, no one waiting on me to be someone I'm not. I pour myself a cup of coffee, savoring the warmth and the simple pleasure of it. Small routines now anchor my days, watering my plants, tidying up my space, choosing what to wear based on what makes me feel good, not what I think others expect. It's these little acts of care that remind me I am capable of nurturing myself, that I am enough on my own. I've realized that happiness isn't found in grand gestures or the approval of others. It's in these quiet moments, in the choices I make for myself, whether it's taking a walk without a destination, reading a book that sparks my curiosity, or listening to music that lifts my spirits. I've begun to rediscover what truly brings me joy, free from the shadows of guilt or obligation. There's a lightness in knowing I hold the power now, that I can decide what my days look like without looking back or second-guessing. I feel a sense of pride in my small victories, organizing my space, setting boundaries, saying no when I need to. Each step I take feels like a reaffirmation that I am in control of my own life, and that's a freedom I cherish deeply. My mind feels clearer, my body stronger. I nurture myself physically with good food and movement, but also nourish my soul with moments of silence and reflection. I no longer carry the weight of past regrets or manipulative voices. They're just distant echoes now. Instead, I focus on what I've built. A life rooted in authenticity and self-respect. Every day, I remind myself that I am worthy of happiness simply because I am here, because I exist. I celebrate the small victories, the quiet moments of clarity, the simple act of choosing myself. There's no need for validation anymore. I know my worth, and that knowledge fills me with a sense of calm and pride. This new life feels like a gift I've given myself, one I don't intend to forfeit. It's peaceful, it's genuine, and it's mine. With each passing day, I feel more solid, more confident in the person I am becoming. I am not perfect and I don't need to be. I only need to be true to myself, and that truth is enough. I look forward to what comes next, not with anxiety or hope for something outside of myself, but with a quiet certainty that I am finally living on my own terms. And in that, I find a happiness that's deep, lasting, and entirely my own. For the first time in a long while, I feel a sense of openness that isn't rooted in necessity or recovery, but in genuine curiosity about what's next. I've started discovering new passions, small things that bring me joy without demanding perfection or other people's approval. I've taken up gardening again, not because I have to, but because I love how tiny miracles unfold in my hands, seeing a seed sprout, watching my plants thrive. It's a simple act, but it reminds me that growth is slow, steady, and worth the patience. I find myself lingering in the mornings, savoring that quiet moment with a cup of tea, just listening to the world waking up around me. It's amazing how much beauty lives in these small, everyday experiences that I once overlooked or dismissed as insignificant. I've also begun exploring new professional goals, dreams I never allowed myself to nurture before. I've started writing again, not with the pressure to produce something perfect, but just to express myself, to play with words and ideas. It feels like reclaiming a part of myself I had buried under layers of doubt and fear. Maybe one day, I'll share these stories, but for now it's enough to feel the words flowing, to know I still have that creative fire inside me. I've connected with people who inspire me, not just as acquaintances but as genuine friends who encourage my growth, who listen without judgment, who see me for who I am now, not who I was in the past. Rebuilding these new relationships has been like planting seeds of trust, and I cherish every honest conversation and shared laugh. Living this way, I find joy in the simple act of being present. Whether it's a walk in the park, a quiet evening at home, or a spontaneous dance in my living room, I realize that happiness doesn't have to be grand or complicated. It's in these small, authentic moments that I feel most alive. I no longer measure my worth by what I've survived or the past wounds I've healed. Instead, I see myself as someone whole, capable of shaping a future that excites me. I've begun dreaming of travel, of learning new skills, of creating a life that isn't just about escaping pain, but about embracing all the possibilities I now see clearly. This new chapter feels like stepping into a space I never thought I'd fully inhabit, one of confidence, peace, and genuine hope. I'm not waiting for life to happen to me anymore. I'm intentionally choosing what I want to nurture and grow. Every day I remind myself that I am deserving of happiness, of love, of a life that feels true to who I am. And as I look ahead, I do so with a quiet excitement, knowing that I am building something real and meaningful, something rooted in my own strength, my authentic self, and the endless possibilities that lie before me. Looking back on everything I've been through, I realize just how much I've grown. There was a time when I let the fear of messing up, of disappointing others, hold me back from truly being myself. I carried so much weight of expectations, of mistakes I thought defined me. But now I see those moments differently. They were lessons, not failures. They shaped me into someone who is more compassionate, more patient, more in touch with her own voice. The courage it took to face those fears, to finally let go of the need to please everyone, was immense. And with each step forward, I felt a little lighter, a little more free. Today, I stand here not as someone perfect, but as someone whole, accepting every part of herself, including the scars and the triumphs. There's no resentment in my heart anymore, only gratitude. Gratitude for the tough days that pushed me to my limits, for the quiet moments of doubt that eventually turned into clarity. I've learned that life isn't about avoiding the storms, but learning how to dance in the rain. I'm proud of the woman I've become, someone who no longer seeks validation outside but finds peace within. It's a beautiful feeling to know that I am enough, just as I am, and that my worth isn't measured by anyone else's standards. I've discovered that true strength lies in vulnerability, in allowing myself to be seen and loved for who I truly am. And that realization fills me with hope for everything that's still to come. Looking forward, I feel an open heart, eager to welcome whatever life brings next. I dream of new adventures, of continuing to nurture my passions and relationships, of waking up each day with a sense of wonder and curiosity. I know my story isn't finished, It's simply unfolding in ways I never imagined. Every day is a blank page, and I'm excited to fill it with kindness, growth, and joy. The past has taught me that I am capable of more than I ever believed, and that the future, full of infinite possibilities, is mine to shape. I embrace the unknown with calm confidence, knowing that I carry within me everything I need to thrive. And to anyone listening, I want you to know that your journey is just as valuable. No matter where you are now, you have the power to change, to heal, and to find that deep sense of peace. Be gentle with yourself, celebrate your small wins, and never underestimate the strength that resides within. If this story resonated with you, I invite you to leave a like, to subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this, and consider supporting through the Super Thanks feature. Your support means the world, not just to me, but to everyone who's ever felt lost or unsure. Remember, your story is still unfolding, full of potential and endless love. Keep moving forward with an open heart, and trust that the best is yet to come.